You're listening to the Bulldog Hour, getting you inside the Wilson football program with weekly game previews, recaps, highlights, and interviews. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Well, good Sunday night, everyone, and welcome back to the Bulldog Hour. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me, my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be here. It's been a crazy weekend,
Yes.
A lot to cover.
A lot to cover.
Yes.
Well, I mean, that always happens when we're so late in the season.
Yeah.
We have completed 8 games. We are going to preview Game 9, and we have a ton to talk about, not just focusing on the student-athletes that won their game on Friday night, but the gentleman that directs them, and then a few people that came back for a few events this weekend.
Yeah.
And,
I feel like typically there might be some times over the course of the years where I would feel like, oh, this is like a historic weekend, but like it may not apply any more than this past weekend.
Yeah, this was just kind of a convergence, a confluence of events, and it was, and I've said this to multiple people already, it's just a fortuitous timing for just the way thing worked out, coincidences or signs or whatever you want to call it. Everything came together perfectly for Wilson football this weekend.
Yeah, it was funny. Someone pointed that out to us last weekend before the Hempfield game. I mean, not that we didn't know, but like someone had pointed out that the way things had unfolded, that it may happen that way. And just hearing someone else like say that, like kind of put that into motion in my mind. I was like, oh man, that could be a crazy weekend. And it was.
Spoiler, it was. Yeah. It was a crazy weekend, but it was a great weekend. A lot of fun was had, both in terms of game results and celebrating the program in general. So we have a lot to get to. So first, we'll just quickly take care of our little house cleaning and announcement stuff. Again, we want to thank our Bulldog Hour show sponsors, May's Sandwich Shop, Topher's 10th and Elm Cafe, our 2 anonymous donors, and have the ability to stream the games.
Yeah.
So,
while not the greatest option, I shouldn't say that. While not the most convenient option, better than last year's option.
Right. Yeah, last year there wasn't even the opportunity to do so. So this is a little bit different. This isn't show specific. I'm not asking on behalf of the Bulldog Hour. I'm asking on behalf of the fans that cannot get to the stadiums where the Bulldogs play. If you are a business, corporation, an organization, or an individual, or multiple individuals, and you're interested in, sponsoring the cost of that, I believe the first round at the school rate, which I think that I can get because I got 2 years ago, is $500. It will be $500 to stream Wilson's 11th game, which would be the first round of the playoffs. I believe it's $500. So if someone group out there is interested, contact us. We had 2 groups step up 2 years ago. The Football Parents Organization paid the media rights fee to District 3 for the first round. The first round victory against, was that Red Lion?
Yeah.
I think it was Red Lion.
It starts to run together.
I think it was Red Lion back-to-back years,
I
actually.
thought it was Central York 2 years ago. But it could be running together.
I don't know. And then Weichel Realty Group did the next round where we went to Manheim Township and ended up losing, but Weichel Realty covered the fee, which is even higher in the next round. Yeah. I think it was $625.
Yeah, it progresses.
So just putting that out there now, because I'll put an announcement out on Facebook saying, hey, if you want to see a game stream of the playoffs, we gotta basically crowdfund this sponsorship because the school's not going to pay for it, and I obviously cannot pay for that out of pocket. So that's just something on the horizon just to kind of put out there for you. But back to the show. Again, you can help out us specifically here to cover all the costs associated with the live streaming and podcasting equipment and whatnot through sponsorship and advertising, in-kind donations, visiting the website, and then Justin's favorite, spreading the word.
Yeah, like and share. If you can help do that for the streams or the posts you see online, all that stuff, it just helps spread the word about the show.
Episode 16 will be live next Sunday night, October 20th. Same time, 8:30, same places, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We're there. Find us, listen, watch while we stream, listen after the fact podcast. Visit anchor.fm to get the variety of ways you can subscribe to the show in podcast form, or search iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify for Bulldog Hour or JMNJR Radio. And slide for the schedule is here, and we are at the last part of that middle column. We are recapping that game against Warwick, and we are previewing the game against Cedar Crest. And then next week at this time, we'll already be looking ahead to that third column. It's tough to believe, but this is the last time I'll be showing this slide because we're talking about it tonight. The 70th season celebration pretty much happened this weekend. It's here and it's gone. Friday night we had the Tradition Club event. Saturday was the Alumni flag football and the evening reception. And it was a great time. So before we talk about the Warwick game specifically, let's take a look at the Tradition Club's event. That's the championship team reunions. We had welcome back players and coaches from the title teams from fall of 1969, 1979, 1989, 1999, and 2009. So yeah, 50, 40, 30, 20, and 10-year anniversaries for these groups.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I know a couple years ago with my uncle, he came up, I think, when the 67 team was celebrated.
We did that one in 2017.
Right, and so when it was quite the experience, because I'm not sure he's been to a Wilson football game since he graduated from Wilson. He moved away and all kinds of things. His kids didn't go to Wilson or anything like that. So he was back, and I think he was just blown away at what it is now compared to what he remembers, back on that 1967. I think that was the undefeated team.
It was Wilson's first undefeated team,
right.
That featured Mike Ritz at back.
Yeah.
He was the big name, and guys that played on that team were here as
right.
Well, a lot of them were seniors on the 69 team, so they would have been softs on that 67 team.
So it is. I know some of those guys are around a lot, and are in the community and are still at a bunch of games and things. But I know there are some every year that kind of are a little further away or don't have the opportunities to come back as often. And so it is cool for those guys to get a chance to be back and get to see some of the guys they played with and things like that, but also get to see Wilson football now.
Yeah, and it was great, a great event again, and this one's spearheaded, like I said, the Wilson Football Tradition Club. Hallie Vaughn is the leader for this one, especially this year with me working on the Alumni flag football event, which we'll talk about soon. But Hallie Vaughn and the president of the club, Barry Aiello, and they got help from a few of our members, Trevor Vaughn and Don Heipler and Dave Long, and it was just a great event Friday night prior and during the Warwick game to welcome back these players who played on significant teams in Wilson's history. And it was great to have them back, and a lot of team captains came back for this championship team reunions as well as for the Alumni flag football game, and it was just a great time. They got recognized at halftime, and that's the one picture you can see on the right. And it was a lot of fun, and we look forward to this is an annual thing for the Tradition Club. I believe this was the fourth year we've done something, so we'll have something set up for 2020, and we'll announce those teams in the coming months. So look forward to that coming real soon. So let's talk a little bit about Wilson's victory against Warwick on Friday night. It was 14-7 favor the Bulldogs. And Wilson started hot. They looked really good in the first half.
Yeah, they did.
They shut out Warwick, which hasn't been done a lot over the last few years.
Averaging over 40 points a game.
Now, I believe Township did it last week. But,
yes,
now you're talking about the two best teams that Warwick has played.
Right, but think about that. They were averaging 40-some points a game, and they were held to 7 last week.
Right.
So, when you factor that into the average, they were scoring in bunches. I know early on.
Yeah.
Now, again, some of those games might not have been exactly the
cream of the crop.
I was going to say, the level that they were getting from, week in, week out in Section 1. But you're still, to go up and average that many points, you're doing something right. You're doing a lot of things right, actually.
Right.
And so it's one of those things where it's a potent offense, as Wilson is well aware. It's obviously not exactly the same as the team they had last year, due to graduation and injuries and things like that. However, they still have a really good quarterback. And I had a number of people come up to me this weekend and talk to me and just how many quality, high quality quarterbacks has Wilson had to go up against this year?
A lot.
And
basically every week except maybe 2.
Yeah.
3. Yeah. I mean, we played 8 games, and I'd say 5 of the 8 games featured a top shelf quarterback in high school football.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So, it's been quite the gamut that Wilson has run. They are battle tested.
The defense, they did really well, and the offense was clicking early.
Right,
they really had it going.
So, yeah, good night to start. Wilson gets an early touchdown midway through the first quarter. Caleb Brown to Brady Gibble, who went up to get it.
It was a nice.
It was
pass.
a
really nice catch.
Yeah, nice pass, great catch. Then in the second quarter, close to halfway, a little bit before that, a little bit at the beginning of the second quarter, we'll say, Wilson mounted the drive that started, I believe, at their 3. And it was capped off with a 40-plus yard touchdown run by Mason Leonard.
Yeah.
And that put Wilson up 14-0. A few minutes later, Wilson's driving again, threatening to go up by 3 scores. And a deflected pass in the end zone is eventually picked off by Warwick. And that's where things started to turn a little bit, started to change. The momentum was swinging. I thought maybe Wilson was ending that at the right before halftime when Warwick missed the long field goal,
50-some yarder.
But it is because it was fielded. Is that why it was a touchback, or is it because it didn't go?
No, I believe every missed field goal in high school football comes back to the 20. Then.
Oh, it does.
I believe so. I think that's as an incentive or not a penalty to
attempt longer field goals.
Right?
I got you.
Because field goals are limited in attempts in high school football anyway. That's my understanding. That's not directly from the rule book, but I believe it's any missed field goal comes to the 20, as to not penalize a team for attempting longer field goals.
Okay. All right. That makes more sense because it was like, why would you field that if you weren't allowed to return it and then get it to 20? Right. So that makes a lot more sense. But Wilson got it to 20 with just a few seconds left, and they tried like a little draw up the middle to Mason, and I thought for a second he was going to score. Now, I'm actually glad he didn't because there was a penalty.
100%. If he would have scored and then it got called back for a penalty, that would have been worse.
Everyone would have been very upset, yeah. But it ended up being like a 66-yard rush or something like that. So you're like, okay, it sucks that there's an interception, but still got a first half shutout. We're moving the ball. Yeah, we get the ball to start the second half. Well, the offense couldn't do anything in the second half. Warwick had all the momentum. They had a lot of confidence, a lot of moxie. They drove down the field, and they were just getting 3 or 4 yards every time. And the defense was bending and not breaking other than the one time. And that was true the entire second half. And then we got to the fourth quarter where Wilson turns it over with about 4.5 minutes to go on a 4th down play that once again, the pass got deflected and intercepted. And with 4.5 minutes to play, the Warwick offense didn't even have to go, I think, a full 50 yards. It was right around midfield.
Yeah, it was right around midfield.
So we were like, okay, we know what's going to happen. They're going to drive down the field because that's just the way, we're always pessimistic here, never optimistic. We're just thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to drive down the field. And then as they're doing that, I'm turning. I talked to Ryan Wolver. I'm like, if they score, they're going to go for 2, right?
Yeah,
they have to. They have all the momentum.
Right. I thought they would go for 2 if they scored. I don't know what they would have done.
Who knows?
I think they would
because it didn't happen.
Right.
And that is the main thing we're going to see here. Hopefully on the highlights. I didn't have time to get to dive into them too deeply, but I think we're going to get to see them. Hopefully the guy in the box got it.
I got it.
Oh, you got it? All right. Yeah, but before we can get to the stop that ended the game, there was a play before that had Coach Dahms a little steamed.
Yeah.
So,
do you want to explain what happened, or
Yeah,
I feel like, and I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the replay, so I don't know exactly what
Yeah,
what happened.
So I actually have a picture of the ball on the ground.
Right. So what I thought I saw. Now again, sometimes it's really hard for me because I'm watching through a screen.
Let's set it up first. So Warwick drives down, and they're just outside the 10,
right.
And the quarterback,
they can get a first down inside the 2 or something.
Joey McCracken rolls out on a play that was, I think he could throw a quick hitch or he could run the ball. Was essentially what they were going to do. He ran it. He gets stopped around the 3, but is being pushed and trying a second effort to get in. Caleb Brown comes and stands him up, is holding him there, and then Jaden Jones comes in and finishes him off.
Right. The rally to the ball, and that was huge.
It's what we tell our players in middle school. You cannot give up on a play.
Right.
Because at some point, there could be 2 inches or less that matters. And that was that play. Caleb Brown stood up just short of the goal line, was holding him there and hoping someone would come and help him to finish him off. They did. The ball was spotted right around the 1 or inside the 1. And then this next series comes up where the first play, Wilson stops them. And the clock is running.
Right.
I think there's about 38 seconds left around the first down inside the 1. So they get up and get ready to run a second play, but they want to spike the ball to stop the clock because they are out of timeouts.
Right.
And then what happens is Wilson knows what's coming, so they're going to attack immediately to see if they can mess it up. It's kind of like what we're teaching our guys for goal line at middle school, where you're just trying to dive through the gaps and create havoc. Yeah. And this happens because it was a great push from the defensive lineman, probably Jeff Colson, Nate Keller, Adam Venino, and I know Anthony Coper was coming in from behind. And as soon as that ball moves, they attack the center towards the quarterback. And Warwick quarterback Joey McCracken never gets the snap.
No.
It hits his hands and bounces to the ground.
Right.
Which is a fumble.
Yes.
And Wilson recovers. However, the refs, also throwing a flag, decide that no, it was a spiked ball.
Right.
To stop the clock.
Right. Now, there are multiple things. I thought, and again, it was really, it's hard to see the details. I thought fumbled snap, but I thought when he picked it up, I thought McCracken picked it up, but when he picked it up, his knee was on the ground, so it would have been a kneel,
not a spike
of a spike.
Right.
Which it was hard to see in the chaos, but that's what I thought. And I'm like, well, then the clock should be running, and all that stuff. That may not be what happened. Like I said, I didn't have a clear shot of what was going on, but I'm like, man. And then while they're sorting this out, now it's not exactly, but they're essentially getting a timeout.
Right.
Because it's an extended period of time, not just the 40 seconds, because the refs are sorting it out. They were like, no, there's no flag. The word we got after the game was even in a situation where they're trying to spike it, they have to bring it up and actually make the throwing motion. They can't just tap it into
throw
the
it
ground.
right down.
So essentially,
in no way, shape, or form could that have been considered a spiked ball to stop the clock.
Right. Yeah, it almost seems like, again, and we may get a look. I don't know that we'll get a look on here, but we may get a look. But it feels like there were 2 ways they could have made a more correct call and went with the third option, which was the last call, which was spike. I did have someone come up to me this weekend. They think the refs didn't know what happened, and so they just had to
gave
go
him
with
the benefit of the doubt.
They were like, we can't give him a turnover if we don't know what happened. Now that is pure speculation.
I don't get that line of thinking because that just says to me that the default response is the offense is always right. And that doesn't why.
I'll elaborate more after.
I guess it's tie goes to runner. Tie goes to runner in baseball.
Which is interesting because I've heard from umpires, they've spoken technically speaking, you can never have a tie. The ball or the runner had to reach there first.
It depends on how microscopic do you want to get.
Exactly. But
so this is called significant digits.
Right. Think back to your chem lessons.
Yes. Right. But anyways.
Yes. But so
Wilson recovered the ball. That's why it matters.
Right.
Wilson had the football.
Right. And the clock stopped instead of running.
Right. And there's like, what, around 12 seconds?
I think it was 19. I think there
was
were
it as much as 19?
Yeah, I think there were 19 seconds left at that point.
Okay.
And so then they run the ball, and the play ends with 12 seconds left.
Oh, okay. So was their attempt on fourth down?
No, I think it was third down. Because if it was fourth, it wouldn't have mattered. We would have had that.
So did they spike the ball on first down? Was that so? Yeah. So the quarterback McCracken got stopped short at the 1.
Right. They came up and
they
ran.
Came up.
Right?
Yeah, they came up and ran the ball.
First down.
First down.
Fail spike second
down.
Coper stop on third down.
Right. So the final play was on fourth down.
What they were trying to get off was fourth down.
Right. But what I'm saying is then the spiked ball, they still had 19 seconds left, and they couldn't get 2 plays off in 19 seconds.
That's my perception of it, and I was kind of going back and forth. I feel like when the last play that got off ended, I thought there were 12 seconds left, and they did not get the play off.
Well, I mean, time doesn't really matter anymore. I feel like with 19 seconds left coming off of the clock being stopped, you should absolutely be able to run 2 plays in 19 seconds.
100%. Yeah. Especially when you weren't running pass plays.
Right.
Guys didn't go that far.
Well, let's go over some individual stats and then take a look at those highlights. And we will give our player of the game out and see if we can see anything of note in those highlights. But first off, we're going to talk about some team statistics here from Wilson's win over Warwick. Each team had 14 first downs, pretty even. Wilson was able to get a bigger rushing total. Of course, over 100 yards of that were on 2 Mason Leonard runs, the 1 touchdown and the 1 right before half. But Wilson had 248 yards rushing to Warwick's 102. The biggest thing here is net yards passing. Now, Wilson only finishes with 60, but the bigger one is Warwick 126 because they had been throwing for a lot. I think that's about half of what they were averaging per game, and McCracken was just
about a quarter of what McCracken threw against us last year.
Yeah, so. You're right. Crazy to think about. Yeah, he threw for over 500 yards against Wilson last year.
By the way, I believe he's a junior.
He is a junior.
He'll be back next year.
So total offense: Wilson 308, Warwick 228. Both teams were penalized. It was a flag fest early on. 8 for Warwick, 7 for Wilson. Pretty even in that regard. Any other standouts here? Third or fourth down? Nope, wrong button. There we go. Possession time, almost identical. 24:07 to Warwick, 23:53 for Wilson, but a lot of Warwick's possession time came in the second half. Third downs, Warwick 6 of 16, Wilson 6 of 13. Fourth down, Warwick 1 of 2, Wilson 1 of 3. Red zone, both teams did fail to score inside the red zone. Warwick was stopped for the game to end, and Wilson had the deflected interception. Individually speaking here, it was neither offense could get too much going, so there's not going to be a lot of huge standouts here. We talked about McCracken already. He threw for 126 yards and 1 touchdown. Their stud running back Colton Miller had 58 yards on 19 rushes, and receiving no huge plays given up. The biggest one, I think, was a 28-yarder to Caleb Schmitz, but Connor Adams led the way for Warwick for 5 catches for 34 yards. Wilson's side, I mentioned Mason Leonard, rushing department, 7 for 129 and the touchdown. Quarterback Caleb Brown kept the ball 13 times for 72 yards, and Avanti Locker carried 16 times for 47 yards.
Man, that was, I know, 16 times for 47 yards, you're like, oh man, that's just under 3 yards a carry. However, man, he earned every bit of those yards, and that's a big 47 yards. Some of those were big plays, important plays.
Yeah, he may have only averaged just a shade under 3, but if you only need 2 or 3 yards, that's right. You're the guy. He's the guy you're going to want in there. And talk about a little throwback Wilson football, rushing the ball 36 times, gaining 248 yards and scoring on the ground as well. So maybe not flashy, although, Mason had a couple big runs, but they got the job done. Quarterback Caleb Brown was 8 of 16 for 60 yards, 1 touchdown, and the 2 interceptions, both of which were deflected. Receiving wise, Matt Fry led the way with 3 for 16 yards. Yardage-wise, it was Brady Gibble with 2 for 24. And the really nice catch to open up the scoring for the Bulldogs for that touchdown in the first quarter. Now defensively, and that's where the majority of the game was played, the defensive side of the ball for both teams. They were the ones that were featured and highlighted. They were the ones that had to get the job done with both teams' offense. They couldn't figure it out for most of the game, the opposing defense. For the Bulldogs, Avanti was the leading tackler with 1 for loss, 10 tackles in a game, 10 for Avanti. That's a huge game defensively for him.
He was everywhere.
Nate Hoekstra was next with 7, including a sack. Mason Leonard chipped in 5 and 2 pass breakups. Jaden Jones had 5, and I already mentioned him. He was huge on that last series, especially inside the 10. He's playing at outside linebacker with the injury to A.J. Futrick. Jeff Colson with 3.5. Troy Corson with 3.5 and a breakup. And Anthony Coper, 3 with 1.5 of those 3 for loss. And I believe both of those, well, the 1.5, all happened within 2 plays of one another.
I think Hoekstra's was also, I think that was the fake punt when he just went through and the guy rolled right and Hoekstra chased
he was
him
not
down.
having it.
No, yeah, that was huge.
That was absolutely huge.
Field and all of that. Yeah, that was an important play.
Very, very much
but
so.
Yeah, like you said, there were a couple plays where we got them tackle for a loss or sacks and things, and they, especially towards the end, that was really important.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So let's take a look at the game recap now. This is from the Wilson point of view, so we'll be all good here. At least I hope it is. Yes, it is. So we're going to open up things here with a nice little run here by Mason early in the game. First quarter, we're getting close to the first Bulldog score, which is probably going to be the next highlight we see. It was nice to see how tough Mason was running again, and then the line coming to his help and to his aid.
There were a lot of effort plays that we saw, and that was huge. I think of one like Eli. It was near midfield, and he caught the ball pretty much at the line of scrimmage and fought like 3 guys off for maybe just a 3 or 4 yard gain, but that was really important. That, man, he put it up there where Brady was going to get it or was going out the back of the end zone. That was great.
That was great. And now here's this drive is the one I talked about that started at our 3 yard line. And Mason Leonard takes it up the middle. He splits the defenders, and once he gets behind you, you're not catching him.
No,
and he's gone. 46 yards, I believe it was, and that put Wilson up 14-0. So here we are, still in the second quarter, and we're going to see a nice run by quarterback Caleb Brown. And this is the point where the drive would end up stalling with the deflected interception. But this here is Mason's big just before halftime run, and got caught at the 15. But like I said, there actually was a penalty on that play. It was declined, so the play counts. But if it would have really mattered on the scoreboard, it wouldn't have counted. If that makes any sense, if everyone's wondering. But here's a nice little run, pick up huge yardage by quarterback Caleb Brown, and that was it, because it was like I said, defensive slugfest. So I'm going to see if I can find the defensive plays that we were talking about, because I think the auto algorithm is just looking for big stuff defensively. So I'm going to see if I can find this here. If you can give a
So when we think about the game, we talked about like offensively speaking, we had things really kind of clicking early on. Obviously, Warwick's going to make adjustments, and it's not that things fell apart in the second half. We were just off on some of the things. You mentioned there were a number of penalties. So kind of as we were going like throughout, sometimes that would cause, a drive to stall or something like that. But it was really kind of crazy how things came down, and we were able to set it up so that the defense was able to kind of bend a little bit, but they didn't break. We already addressed that was exemplified by that last drive,
right?
How they stood tall at the moment where there was no more give, like there was no more room to give. They get it down inside the 1, but yeah,
right.
it was pretty incredible.
I have the film from both your camera and Ryan's camera. We're gonna watch your vantage point, Ryan's vantage point on the final 4 plays of the game. So we're gonna see we're gonna see the play that we've talked about a bunch, where the quarterback Joey McCracken is going to roll out to the left and be stood up at the 1, and then there's 3 plays in a row that the defense makes a goal line stand. So let's take a look at this right now. All right, again, you're going to watch McCracken is going to roll out to his left here. I think this is the point where there's like 39 seconds left or something. I believe Warwick had just taken their final timeout, and it may have even been a designed run play. He didn't really
hold him up.
And there, Troy was in there too.
Yep.
And throws him down. And this is the same play that we just saw from the end zone camera. I know that it's not focused, but you're going to get a good idea of how close the Warwick quarterback was to scoring and tying the game on this play alone. So he makes a nice move. Jaden hits him. Caleb holds him up. Troy comes in behind. So the 3 of them held him up. Now here's the first play. Okay. Oh, okay. It was on first down. Right, yeah, you can. That is obvious. I'm gonna run that back. That is so incredibly obvious. The quarterback has no idea. He's not ready for it at all. I mean, just watch the way that McCracken reacts.
How he jumps on the ball.
The ball never got to. I'm not even sure it hit his hands.
Right. But then, watch. So, you can see how I thought he downed it. You see what I mean? He's on his knees. He did not spike it.
And they threw a flag for whatever reason that was. Right. But here, you're going to see it again. Watch his reaction. He goes down to try to get the ball. He doesn't have the ball. He never got the ball.
Right. And then he's telling, no, I was throwing it down.
So now we're going to get 2 consecutive stops. Yep. One right there to the running back where he wasn't even close. No, he lost a yard or 2. And this is the same play from a different angle. And it's incredible. It's a great stand by the defense. I mean, and this is Anthony Coper's assisted tackle, and here it is, last play of the game. What do? We got a good running quarterback. You're giving it to him, right? Nope. Designed running play. Coper splits the gap, makes the tackle, and you're going to see even better from this angle. And he just slices right in and makes the play. That was an incredible play. And this is them trying to line it up, and you can see, nope, time expired, game over. Wilson wins 14-7.
Just and there it was great because you could see the clock going down from that last angle. It was crazy difficult to get those last few plays on the recorded because. So there's some shaking in the press box where I normally am, but to try and get a different vantage point, I was up on top of the press box this week. Well, let me tell you, the shaking is magnified. The Warwick camera guys down were looking over at me is everything okay?
Are we gonna
because
fall?
It was
crazy.
It was violently shaking up on top of the press box because the band is right down in front. Yep. They're all jumping up and down and screaming, and people are all everybody's on their feet, just kind of waiting to see what happens. So I'm just trying to I'm basically trying to hold it and steady it on my own because it's just rocking back and forth. But man, that was an awesome end of the game. Yeah. And guys made big plays when they needed to. That is, I think that maybe exemplifies it. You're not going to win every game pretty. Not every game will be pretty, but grinding it out and getting a good win against a really quality team like Warwick. I mean, I know they've lost 2 in a row, but they've lost 2 in a row to the teams that are 1 and 2 in 6A, and they are 5A.
Right.
So we've seen some of the other teams in 5A, and
they're of the ones we've seen. Yeah, they're the best.
Warwick's the best.
Yes.
So they still have, I feel like, a lot of football ahead of them.
I mean, the only one that I would think could possibly give them a problem would be Shippensburg.
Right.
Because they're better than Cedar Cliff. They're better than Cocalico. They've already proved they're better than Manheim Central. I don't know much about York William Penn.
I know they lost to Cedar Crest.
But, okay. Well,
right. But I'm just saying, I don't know. I know. That was early in the season.
Right. And we know that we've seen Governor Mifflin, and we can kind of know what Exeter can do.
Warwick, while ranked 6th, will may bump up a couple spots.
I would feel like Warwick's only hurdle is Shippensburg. Honestly, I don't see how any of the other teams.
I figure they're no worse than a toss-up though to any team. I would think so in the 5A thing.
Yeah.
So
well, you mentioned big plays, and no plays were bigger, other than I guess the points or the plays that got points on the board for Wilson, than the final drive for Warwick that was silenced at the end. And the one doing the silencing is our player of the game this week, and that's senior offensive lineman and linebacker Anthony Coper. He is a starting guard for the offense, and he helped block for the rushing attack that gained 248 yards and scored a touchdown in that manner. And then he made 3 tackles, none bigger than the final 2 plays of the game, where he helped stuff the running back on 2 consecutive plays, the second of which was him. He beat the blockers and made the play, forcing Warwick to try to hurry up and get one more play off, which they didn't do. And, I was told that the whole defense should be player of the game, but I felt like there was at least an individual standout right there at the end. I mean, you could throw Avante in there as well, having 10 tackles from his, the 2 inside linebackers in the Wilson offense, they're made to get those tackle stats. And Avante showed that what you can do when you're getting incredible play from the defensive line and he's cleaning them up. And then Coper's instincts at the end, I don't want to say single-handedly won the game because I don't want to get that hyperbolic about it, but obviously those are huge plays and he made them count.
Yeah, absolutely. We mentioned guys stepping up and making a play. You have your ups and downs throughout the game, and it sounds cliche. Well, let me rephrase that. It is cliche to be like, you have to weather the storm and you have to move on to the next play and all that stuff. But we turned the ball over and then they come down the field and then they get to the 1. They have 1st and goal at the 1, with seemingly enough time to get 4 cracks at the end zone with the quarterback who I assumed was going to roll out and have run pass options.
Yeah,
which is what they did to get down there.
Right. He converted 3rd and 4th a few plays.
Like where you have where he is going to run it or pass it. And they chose not to go that route. And listen, I've seen one Warwick game this year, and that's the one on Friday night. So they know what they're doing over on that other side too. But it just, hey, I feel like they played to our strength at the end, and I welcome that. But all that being said, you have to have guys go like I said, it's not like, oh, you can't give up a first down. No, you can't give up a yard. You can't give up a yard. And it was funny because before the game, we were joking about, it would be great to see this be a classic game where Wilson stops. And we made reference to the stop that I believe Tommy O'Brien made
in 2016
on the 2-point conversion attempt by Springford at, in double overtime or something like that.
Yeah, September 2016.
And I believe it was the
pretty
same
close.
Zone.
Yeah, it was.
And Coper makes the play.
Those were bold playmaker plays.
Right. You need a guy to make a play.
He had confidence to go and read it and shoot the gap and make the play, and he did it.
Right.
Because it's one thing to be like, I think I can get there. I
think it was interesting.
It's another to do it.
I think it was Drago. It might have been Ryan because I was reading everybody's stuff on this game, and they were talking about how they asked, was it just everyone go? We're just gonna wholesale out on the run.
It was read and play our defense.
No, we're reading the play, and I knew, I saw it, and I just got it. Wow.
Mad props to defensive coordinator Ernie Wolber and his entire defensive staff. We already mentioned it, but you don't remember. This team was averaging over 42 points a game, throwing for hundreds of yards each week. And I know that they got a little bit of slack 2 weeks ago for what happened against Manheim Township and their prolific attack. And adjustments were made, and they got revenge for what Warwick did to the team last year. Right. So a great effort by the coaching staff again to get Wilson to 7-1, and it was a big one, a huge one, because it is the 152nd win for Coach Dahms as head coach of the Bulldogs. And why is that important? Well, it puts him atop the program record book, breaking John Gurski's record of 151. And I actually was able to catch a little bit of video of the presentation at the end. The coaching staff surprised Coach Dahms with a personalized football marking the occasion. And you're not going to be able to hear Gerry and Doug talk, but you're just listen to the players and the celebration that goes on Doug's behalf.
Man of the hour! Man of the hour! Let's go, That's the best they ever do it, baby.
So, do you think the kids are excited?
Yeah, I think they're pretty excited, and it's really cool, to see. I know from talking to the kids that a bunch of the guys, were around this week. Like I know the Slemmers were around this week, and so just a lot of these kids grow up knowing that Wilson football is bigger than just like any one year and all this stuff. It's this tradition that's ongoing and ever building. But now these kids, like this is one of those things where they're forever going to be on this team that got Dahms over that mark.
Yep.
They will forever be the team that got Coach Dahms his 152nd win, and that's something incredible. And he was Coach Dahms, he puts it right back to the players and assistant coaches and the parents and the alumni and everybody else. He tries to spread that around. And it means a lot to him though, because he cracked a smile. Usually even when there's the other stuff, we'll get that laugh from him. He'll give us a laugh, but you could tell this means a lot to him. Not that he was chasing, the numbers, but just in what that means, that sustained success and all the things that have gone into getting there that journey has been quite the ride for Coach Dahms.
Absolutely. And we caught up with Coach Dahms and Coach Slemmer after the game, after the historic victory for Coach Dahms.
There's a lot of wins in this interview.
And I said it would be one question and maybe a minute long, but they wanted to talk, so we talked for about 5 minutes. So
I feel like they were in a bit of a celebratory.
They were happy. They were happy. So it was a huge milestone, and getting ready for an alumni event the next day that we're going to talk about next. So let's hear what Coach Dahms and Coach Slemmer told us after Wilson's victory over Warwick. All right, we're post game now with not one but two current or former Wilson coaches, Doug Dahms, Gerry Slemmer, back for the 75th season celebration events happening this weekend. And, we just saw a thriller tonight, gentlemen, and a historic one. So, Coach Dahms, congratulations. Your 152nd win as head coach, passing the legendary John Gurski. What was your thoughts right there at the end of the game?
We won.
That's all that matters, right?
Mattered. That's all that mattered. I'll trade this in a heartbeat for a district championship.
Explain to the listeners here what happened on that last play of the close to the last play of the game, that last series. Yeah, the second, third to last play.
The quarterback fumbled the snap, and the officials claimed he spiked the ball to stop the clock. I said, what were you watching? The ball came up and hit his hands and fell. He never even possessed it. Plus, when you do that, you have to bring the ball up, and there has to be a throwing motion. They said, he took it and threw it to the ground. Well, that's not a throwing motion. That's a fumble motion. But then he threw the flag because he was going to call a penalty for ineligible receiver downfield or something.
Is that what
really
it was? He
stupid.
waved it off.
And then he waved it off.
Yeah,
and then he waved it off. But, it was... luckily we won the game, and that was a call right there. That's one of the reasons I keep fighting for instant replay in the playoffs. That's a playoff game, and that can cost you a football game. That can cost you a district championship or anything.
Well, your team's now in the driver's seat for the top two spots in the power ratings, with 2 games to go against Cedar Crest and then senior night against McCaskey here. Coach Slemmer, well, welcome back. We're glad you could be here.
Thank you.
You've known Doug for a long time. What can you say about Coach Dahms and his impact on the program?
over the last what is it now? 14 years as head coach.
Well, if we really want to go back, we both came here the same year, 1976. So that's over 40 years ago, and to watch Doug do a tremendous job. I mean, every year he was here as a teacher, he also coached, and he coached 2 sports. Well, that's unheard of. That's unheard of. I mean, the amount of time that you put in to do that, football in the fall, track in the spring, and to do that for that length of time is just incredible. And he's just, he's done a wonderful job, and we're just so proud of him and the direction Wilson football has gone and continues to go under his leadership. And what can I say? There's not too many high schools in America that has what Wilson has going with the tradition, as you call, with the Wilson Tradition Club. Well, there's tradition here at Wilson that's unmatched anywhere in the country. So it's exciting to watch them play, and I'm so glad I had a chance to come back from Arizona and see their game tonight.
Yeah, fortuitous timing to have this event happen on this alumni weekend, this celebration weekend of 75 seasons. One thing that's coming up tomorrow, though, the flag football game, and you guys are coaching against each other. Has that ever happened before?
Oh, are you kidding? You should see all the play cards I have drawn up. We've been watching films all
And we
week.
know each other really well.
Right. So, well, are we going to see more Gurski era type of football? Are you going to run it without the pads on?
Whatever. I'm not revealing my secrets.
All right. Sorry. I shouldn't have even asked. So, well, thank you for coming back. We appreciate it.
Pleasure.
And congratulations once again on the
might add
milestone.
one thing, how many times in the early days when we were, quote, little coaches, and Slemmer would always say, look at the accident, because I got hired as a football coach 2 days before practice started, because John Stopper went to Albright and they needed
we
a coach.
met
The first day of practice.
that's when we met.
You met the first day of practice is the first time you met back in 1976.
Yep.
That is incredible.
Yep.
And you've
Except
got
for on a football field. We didn't know we were both going to land here. So it's been a lifetime experience.
Seen each other a few times since that
And
first
lifetime
meeting.
friends
So.
as a result.
Well, great. Well,
Tomorrow night, I don't know. But,
you're right. For an hour and 45 minutes, you're mortal enemies, and you got to come out on top. So, well, thank you for joining us this evening.
I just want to officially again thank Doug for.
Absolutely.
He's very modest. He couldn't even tell you how many wins there are, but
I make sure that he always knows.
Yeah,
I let
modest,
him, Ernie, Jeremy.
That's a huge milestone, and we both have so much respect for John Gurski.
Oh my God,
we
started the
both
whole
coach
thing.
for the man, and I know he is up there right now, as proud as he can be of what Doug has accomplished, and that's what it's all about.
Well, thank you guys for joining me. 280 wins as Wilson head coaches, 281 combined. Can't get much better than that. So thanks for joining us, guys.
All right.
All right. So there, Coach Dahms, 152 wins, the new program leader. Coach Slemmer, 129 wins, third place on the Wilson all-time list, and obviously Coach Gurski slides in there at second place at 151. But yeah, what a great night. What great timing. Absolutely incredible for the event happening right after, the day after the win over Warwick. And that was the alumni flag football game held at Gurski Stadium, where we welcomed back 50 former football players. Actually, it was more like 54 former football players. 4 of them decided to not test the waters and just to be an assistant and a coach. And then we obviously had Coach Slemmer, Coach Gurski, and Coach Bernie Stoppe also made the return trip to take part in the game. And it was a lot of work, but man, it was fun. And everyone seemed to have a blast yesterday evening.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was just cool. It was unlike anything, honestly, that I'd seen or been a part of before. Everyone that I've gotten a lot of good feedback, and that was awesome, and that made me really happy. And I made sure everyone knew this was Joey, man. This was I did not want any of that to become like, oh, thanks for what you've done. Listen, I work the scoreboard. That is I show up. And that's pretty much how a lot of the stuff runs here. Like, you tell me do this, and that's what I do. That's how I operate best. But you know, like we were talking about this just a little bit before the show, but I can only imagine how much work it was. However, man, like I personally, I thought it was a huge success, and you know, the guys seemed to love it. You know, I saw guys, and again, things that make me feel really old, but like there were a number of alumni that I taught,
right?
Like Zach Zweizig, you know, seeing him out there.
The Zerbies. Chris Zerby came up to me after the game, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, you are making me feel old, man.
Right? Yeah, because you know, I had him when he was a junior. You know, I chaperoned the Wallop trip with Dahms. Like it was my first full year teaching, and Pat Zerby is a senior and was on that trip. You know,
it says spring of 09.
Yeah, and you know, it's just. It was just fascinating. It was an awesome experience to see that. And like, that's for me. And, you know, I had some of it was limited in terms of like, I didn't necessarily grow up going to Wilson football games, but like I followed them for the last 19 years, and essentially 20 seasons now.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. But again, things that make me feel old.
Yeah.
But It was an awesome. So thank you for putting that on, and thanks to the support of a lot of people. Again, I got more of the, hey, are you the guy that works with Joey on the show? Yes, that's me. You know.
Well, I do appreciate you helping me out running the scoreboard, and I'm going to get into thanks.
Probably literally the easiest thing that any job that anyone had there last night was what I had to do. Like, so you're welcome, but like.
I wanted you.
I appreciate you setting the bar low,
but I knew you could get there.
Right, that's right.
So
you threw me a bone because you only give me tasks that you know I'm capable of completing. So
yeah,
we'll leave that. We'll let the viewers read into that what they will. But you gave me the simplest task, and I appreciate it.
The best part of the event has been the players that have said how much fun they had, because I didn't want this to be something that just was kind of. They didn't feel that it was important because, you know, it was a fundraiser, and there's going to be a good amount raised for the football program, which is going to be great once I figure out all the bills and we'll figure out what the final tally is. But it's going to be hopefully seen as a nice fundraiser for the team. But people, maybe they don't realize that the main fundraiser aspect of that came from these former players registered to play in this game, and there was a charity donation associated with that. Right. So they weren't just coming back and putting their body on the line. Right. They had to pay to do so.
It's kind of like when you sign up to play in like the football or the football like golf tournament. You know, like, yeah, you're doing it, but like you pay to do that. Now I understand there's golf versus flag football, like, but like, yeah, you were those guys. Not just their time, but they and. I think going back to the interview, like what Coach Slemmer was saying, that's one of the things that helps set Wilson apart from lots of schools and programs is just that willingness for, what did you say, 54 guys to come back and give time and money and their bodies for
unfortunately.
But man, that first quarter, seeing some of those guys like dive around, I'm just like, oh my gosh. There were a couple times in the press box, there were a couple oh no's. Without
no. I was feeling it every time, especially that first quarter. We had guys from fall of 1969 through fall of 1990 playing in that first quarter. I believe there was 8, maybe 9 on each side. So 16 or 18 guys from those first, like, that 40-year time period. I'm sorry, not 49-year time period. But 20-plus year time period, you know, going out there. And it was awesome. But every time that there was a collision, you're just like, oh, God, please.
There were a couple times where guys, like, kind of laid out for the ball. And I'm just like, oh, my gosh.
Mad props. Right. Respect.
Right. There's some people I'm like, I hope they have off for Columbus Day.
It was. I mean, it was a ton of fun. Once things got rolling and people settled down and got used to it, it was great. And it was funny. So as part of their like swag bag, I gave out to them that came with their jerseys and a few other things to commemorate the game and the season. They got a coupon for like a quick dinner before the game, because asking them to be there at 4:30 and then playing until the reception, at 8:30 or whatever. I was like, they might be hungry, so we were like, let's get them something. The guys completely ignored it immediately on the field warming up. Like, they're stretching, they were running patterns, they were meeting each other for maybe the first time.
There was a great article today from Mike Drago, kind of in the Reading Eagle, or at least online. I don't know.
It was in print. Yeah, it was in print.
Which is awesome, because that's been made clear over the last couple months. Like,
it's a premium now.
In print is like premium stuff. They only put stuff in there that is going to get read. And it was really interesting, because he's like, there was no way Gerry didn't have his guys out here this morning running practice. He's like, because some of these plays, he's like, they absolutely had to be practicing this.
And you mentioned Gerry. I think my favorite moment of the game was I started, they did the coin toss and I was out there, and then I kind of was on the visiting sideline, which is where I put Coach Dahms and his team. And I was just walking around, and because it was just like a charity game, I was out in the field taking pictures. Like, I wasn't worried about staying on the sideline. So I'm walking around, and I head over to the home sideline and where Coach Slemmer and his team were, and he's coaching. Like, this isn't just like a laugh fest. Like, he is coaching. He's telling the guys, don't get beat deep, and he's yelling at him. And I'm like, this is awesome. This is exactly what we wanted. Because, I mean, it wasn't super serious that he was being obnoxious about it, but like, it was fun, but it was also to play.
Well, like, I looked over, and Dahms was usually somewhere like on the half of the field where the ball on the sideline, but there were usually a couple guys around him, and it looked like they were talking and doing stuff. Slemmer was usually standing by himself, like on like the edge of the coach's box, watching what was going on and talking to guys on the field.
Well, and it was great. After the intros were done, while the guys were still warming up, each coach had their guys huddle up, and then Gerry sent his guys over to touch the Bulldog and then run out of the field, and Doug had his guys touch the Bulldog and run out of the field, and Doug Meyer, who did the announcing for us, said, "Here come the Bulldogs." Slowly. But yeah, it was great. And at halftime, we were able to honor the service of John Doc Moyer, 40 years with the Wilson School District.
That's awesome.
He was the first person in Berks County to be hired as an athletic trainer for a school, and I don't think Wilson ever had to think twice about that decision, because so what an incredible accomplishments have been coming Doc's way, especially in the last 2 to 5 years, and even this year. I had Doug read the awards that he's been given, and he's so respected, not just in Berks County, Pennsylvania, the Northeast, but in the entire nation.
Right.
So you just have to understand how lucky we are to have Doc and his staff, because Kiernan is incredible. She's been here for a number of years now, and they always have great students with them, and now part of the honors internship program. Yeah. So it's and Doug also mentioned that Wilson Sports Medicine has been given awards as well because of the program that Doc and Kiernan run. So the Tradition Club, led by President Bear Aiello, presented Doc with a commemorative football to thank him for 40 years of service, and that Doc is not retiring. He's here to stay. We just wanted to honor him at this 4-decade mark of working for Wilson Athletics and the Wilson community.
Yeah, it's awesome. And like you said, everyone that's gone through the sports program at Wilson understands what Doc means to the programs and the district and everything. And I think you heard that when it was presented last night. Both teams stopped what they were doing. Everyone in the stands, everyone is well aware. I feel like everyone is well aware, and if they aren't, they should be, of how much Doc means to the programs and the football program specifically for our reference here. But it's incredible.
Now, there was a second half to be played, and that was once again pretty much dominated by Slemmer's squad. Team Dom's got a couple late touchdowns.
When you started seeing the connection between Zach Zweizig and Andy Sapola, whoa, look out.
Zweizig to Sapola was great. Dom started to mount a comeback. But I did say to him,
Dave Diaz, man, was it like ball hawk out there?
I said to him jokingly, I was like, I didn't even give too much thought into having a game MVP, which I probably should have. That should have been one oversight that I wish I could correct, especially now because one of either Todd Mays, my cousin, or David Diaz, who I've known for 20 plus years as well, would have been the game MVP because the two of them for Slemmer squad were almost unstoppable for most of the game. But each side had a lot of highlights and incredible plays and players. And I thank all of those guys that came out, made the commitment, and had the opportunity to play in front of fans, the community, and on Gurski Stadium one more time. And it's just great. The one picture I have up there, if you're watching, next to the Doc and Barry picture is of Joe Grimm making a play. Didn't quite get to the end zone, but I like it because caught the students, mostly the football players on the current team, were sitting in the end zone and they were going nuts. The best part is they were usually on the case of the referees, which were their coaches, Jake Peterson and Mark Steinmeier, and also cheering on Team Dahms. So they definitely weren't just sitting there enjoying the game. They were cheering on the red jerseys and Team Dahms the whole time.
It was also interesting.
It was pretty fun.
I know for some of the guys they were talking, they've never really done much on turf. Especially some of the just put it more veteran alumni have never played on turf. And then I thought, I was like, man, some of these guys, this is their only game they ever played under the lights at Wilson.
Right.
But it was incredible. It was a good experience and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a ton of fun. So I just want to take the time now to thank so many different people that had a hand in the evening, and it's tough to even know where to start, honestly, because there are
music and you have a minute to think
where there are just so many people that deserve to be thanked. But I'll start at the top with the rest of the Wilson Football Tradition Club and all of my volunteers. We already talked about you working the school board. I appreciate that. Doug Meyer coming back to do the public address announcing. Mike Drago from the Reading Eagle providing some media coverage. The volunteers that we had from the Tradition Club, obviously Hallie Vaughn and Barry Aiello, instrumental in getting this off the ground, and their work last evening. Then Dave Long and your dad, Jeff Raffoff, doing tickets, as well as Don Heipler manning the gate as well. And, we had little kids running around from my family, your family, the Vaughns. That was great. And then obviously the concessions people, we had 3 vendors come back from the night before, and Mr. Softy and Sammy Steaks and Baker Bob's. And then the main concession stand was run by my family at May's Sandwich Shop. So I appreciate the help that my sister Corinne and my aunt and uncle Dennis and Joyce and Denali from the shop.
When the announcement was made that Todd Mays was making a big play, that there was quite the eruption from the concession stand.
And Terry Yost was back to help us out. And obviously my dad, who was all over the place. It was a bit of a gopher at the beginning during setup. And then he manned the merchandise tables. And I heard the misprinted apparel, the $5 blowout table went over really well.
Nice.
So it was great. And anytime that we can get rid of some merchandise and make a little bit of money for everything that we do for the football team, sounds good to me. So I appreciate all of those volunteers. Paul Davis was on the sidelines with the Slemmer squad. He was the down marker. He was keeping everyone in the loop of what down it was, and I appreciate his help as well. Obviously, the sponsors for the game. I mentioned May's Sandwich Shop already, but Rick's Printing was huge for us. They did the game programs for us and provided so much help for the Tradition Club event Friday night. And we are working with them for one more surprise edition that just couldn't come together at the last minute for the swag bag the players got. And I'm going to be working on that over the next few months. And hopefully that'll come together and be a really cool item as well. And I don't want to forget the Van Reed Athletic Association for their help with some behind the scenes stuff. And getting Reagan Underwood to come back and perform the national anthem. How good was she?
They're incredible.
Yeah.
I think they both have sang or sung.
They did, yeah. Back-to-back home games. So.
Reagan came back. They're unbelievable. And it was funny because we we're making sure we had the mics working and everything. So she was going to have to sing from the press box. And I'm like, is that going to cause a problem? And she just looked at me, and she wasn't being like, she was just like, no, I'll be fine. And I was like, I know. It was a stupid question, and she was. She did a great job.
I messaged Kim and was just like, your daughters were so amazing the first 2 home games. Could one or both of them, would they be willing to do that, come back and do it again? And she's like, yeah, I'll make sure that someone's there.
That was awesome.
And we had the wireless mic issue. We're like, it's just doing the press box. Yep. Hopefully it's okay. And well, it was pretty okay because Reagan killed it. It was awesome. So I appreciate her help. I mentioned Jake and Mark being the referees. They did an excellent job. And obviously having Doc Moyer, who was the most requested person to be there by the players, and Dr. Canner on the sidelines as well. And then, of course, I can't forget Mr. Cooper and the Wilson Marching Band and Courtney Weniger and her cheerleaders. To make it feel like an event and to really get the players involved, you needed to have the band and you need to have the cheerleaders, and they work so well on each other, going back and forth with the cheers and the music. And Marty Palm caught a great clip from the press box, and I'm glad he did because I didn't have anything. I was like, I don't have anything. I think I had one dark picture that caught the band, and I didn't have anything good
because the lights are not set up to light up the stands. They're
right,
set up to light up the field.
But Marty got it from the press box where he had the band playing and the cheerleaders performing one of their routines. I was like, this is perfect. So if you're on the social media, you'll probably have already seen that. But they came out in full force, and it was excellent. A huge turnout from both the band and the cheerleaders, and I really appreciate that. And last but not least, he's not listed there, but this is his photo. Bill Snook messaged me yesterday and was like, hey, do you mind if I come and take some pictures of one of the guys that I know is playing? His name's Todd Mays. I was like, yeah, I think I can let you come out on the field. So he took some excellent pictures. I also posted a link to his album, and this is one of his pictures of the Wilson Marching Band playing during the Alumni game. So obviously huge thanks to Coach Slemmer, Coach Dahms, and all those guys that came back as well. And if I forgot you, trust me, it's not. There's just so many people that helped out yesterday evening, and I appreciate all of them. Andy Stufflet, Wilson Operations, always the guy. When Drew Kaufman told me that he was the one that would be there, I was like, we're in good hands.
Yeah, that's right.
I've known Andy for a long time, and he was incredibly helpful before, during, and then after. So I appreciate everything that they were able to do. So yeah, what a night, what a game. There was one more thing. Of course, my slide is all messed up, so I'm trying to hear.
Where you go?
Well, yeah, I know, unfortunately. So let me see if I can.
Like you've been rushing around this week.
Almost. So this isn't the full pictures. I had it, but I do want to make sure that people see this image. My brother-in-law, Jason Dutt, was there with his drone, and we've done video and pictures of the stadium during warm-ups before, but there are rules that prohibit you from doing it during games, which obviously makes sense. But because this has nothing to do with anyone, it was all for fun. I told him to fly it as often and wherever he wanted to over and around the Gurski Stadium area. So he caught this awesome.
He did tell me at one
sunset
point
picture.
He had it up there, and it's like it starts flashing and returning because they return to have like a safe landing if the battery starts to run low. He's like, I don't need this. I've got 3 minutes left. I'm good. Like on his battery.
But he caught this amazing picture just like right before sunset. And you can see Team Dahms and Team Slemmer out there. And it's just super cool. You can see it's just really awesome with the mountains or kind of more rolling hills in this area in the background. But it's just a really cool picture. And he had an entire video published to AC/DC with some pictures and video footage of last night's game. So appreciate him doing that for us, and check it out. It's all these links and pictures and videos and everything are on the Facebook page. So yeah, what an incredible time. We had a reception at PJ's afterwards, which was well attended, and the guys enjoyed food and some drinks and just talked and reminisced and got to socialize with people that they had never knew before or have known but haven't seen in decades. So then that's what it was about. Come back, have fun, support the program, and just talk about the good old days.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, so real quickly, as we're running way long, we do want to touch on Cedar Crest here, because that is the Bulldogs' next opponent, Cedar Crest Falcons. Head coach Rob Wildassin having a great year. They had a great year 2 years ago when they were down in Section 2. They started strong, 5-0.
He has really kind of built them back up.
Yeah, they're on the upswing.
That's good.
Last year they had a little bit of a down year. They were only 5-5, but obviously
making that adjustment back to Section 1.
Right, and obviously this year, well, they're already past that mark because they're 6-2, started 5-0. They started to hit the teeth in their schedule, having to play Warwick Township and us, I think, in 3 out of 4 weeks, something like that.
Yeah.
So they're suffering a little bit now with 2 straight losses, and we do have to go to Lebanon. So it'll be our first trip there since might be 2014, possibly.
Well, and yeah, because I was like, well, we've gone to Lebanon, but that was for the Cedars because they had flip-flopped, I believe, which is kind of crazy because now Lebanon's down in Section 3.
Right.
But, it was really interesting. I don't know that I've been to a Wilson game at Cedar Crest because I'm almost certain I have not been to a Wilson game at Cedar Crest. So yeah, it's been a little while since we've been down that way.
Yeah, so they are a mostly run-oriented offense, and that's
that kid ran for 300 some yards.
Right. Tyler Cruz is their main guy. He's back. He was a big time player last year. Jeff Reiner says he had 658 yards and 13 touchdowns.
Yeah, he had half of that in one game this year.
Right.
So like he can run the ball.
They also have Chris Dans at quarterback. He is new to the offense this year, at least in the starting capabilities. But they apparently have some studs coming up that are young. Aiden Richards is a name to remember. And then a few of their defensive linemen are back, and Eric Wozniak, TJ Moore, and Cole Miller. So they have a few returning starters, and it's been going pretty well for Cedar Crest. Like I mentioned, started the season 5-0, 1-2 in their last 3, with Wilson coming to town this week.
Do you know who they play in week 10?
I do not know.
I wonder if they have. Well, no, their crossover game would not be Lebanon because
they play them in week 1. They already beat them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just trying to think of who they play because we'll see.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out.
6-2 right now, and like we said, they beat William Penn.
Oh, their crossover game is the last week. It's Garden Spot, who I don't think is doing well this year at all. Yeah, no, they have not won a game.
No.
So Cedar Crest is. They're going to beat Garden Spot. I think that's safe to say.
Right,
so the Wilson game, honestly, the Wilson game is huge for them.
Right, because they're sitting at 6 right now in the district. So that Garden Spot win, what is Garden Spot 4A?
No, they're 5A.
Okay.
But they haven't won a single game.
Right, so that's
Garden Spots lost to Boone, Warwick, Palmyra, Solanco, Lampeter, Strasburg, Conestoga Valley, Elizabethtown.
Our opponent hasn't.
Yeah, that's true.
So this game is big for both teams. I think Wilson, they need to handle their business. You can't let the success of this last week, and getting the big win against Warwick means nothing when you go back out on Friday night.
Right.
Except like the lessons and experience that you learn. It doesn't help you, Cedar Crest isn't going to, that they're going to really be trying to kind of get back, right the track, basically, and get back on track. And so you want to make sure, especially after what Township did to them this week.
Yeah.
But listen, we understand how things can get out of hand in a hurry, and that's not always indicative of how a team's going to play from week to week. And so that means nothing going into this week, except you just need to go and handle your business.
Absolutely.
And if they do, they still, Wilson could have a lot of football ahead of them yet. And that's what you need to be. You focus on the individual weeks because that's how you're going to get there. But understanding that big picture of taking care of your business from week to week can set yourself up to do some pretty good and cool things over the next, month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah. So come out this Friday to Cedar Crest, head into Lebanon County, and see the Bulldogs take on the Falcons.
Yeah, you pretty much just go down 422, and when you get into Lebanon, turn left. That's pretty much all
and
you
then
have
you'll
to do.
be there.
Yeah.
All right.
You'll see it. You'll see the lights then.
Real fast look at the power ratings after 8 weeks. Manheim Township on top. Wilson next. Central Dauphin, Central York are your 3 and 4, followed by Harrisburg, Cedar Crest, Cumberland Valley, and Chambersburg. Those are the 8 teams that would make the playoffs should they start today. On the outside looking in are Redline, Hempfield, Lebanon, and Central Dauphin East. I don't think anyone below that, and that might be including a few too many teams to begin with, because the top 8 are pretty much set right now. I think, I mean, if Red Lion could squeeze 2 more victories, they may be able to jump someone like Chambersburg, although Cumberland Valley does still have to play Harrisburg.
And State College.
So, yeah, Cumberland Valley is probably in a tenuous position. I'm not sure about Chambersburg's remaining schedule, but I even think, even if Cedar Crest finishes 7-3,
so an interesting
they're in, I think.
But Hempfield has to play Manheim Township week 10.
Yeah.
So that's tough for them. An interesting one to me is Lebanon, because in Section 3, I don't know who they have left, but they could win their last 2. I know they're sitting at 11, so that's a big thing to jump. So, but man, I feel like
Octorara and Anvil Cleona.
Octorara, I think, just lost to Columbia this past week.
Ooh, they lost to Effort by 2 this past week. Lebanon did.
Oh yeah.
That was a big unfortunate loss for them.
But wow, and Anvil Cleona is
Octorara is 2-6. Anvil Cleona is a good team, pretty good team though. They're a tough out.
Columbia beat Octorara, I think 52-49 on Friday night.
They did, yes, they did.
But Anvil, the kid just kicked a 54-yarder, and they played on Monday because their last game, they played on Friday night this week, but they also played on Monday, so they're playing on a short week because of some unfortunate. I think there was a car accident with some injured players.
Oh, jeez.
So I think it was just injured player. I say just. I believe. Hopefully everyone was okay there, or will be okay. But yeah, they played on Monday and then had to turn around and play again
on Friday.
So that roller coaster, you know. But so Anvil Cleona, that'll be a tough game, and that's close. They probably border.
I think just to put a bow on it, I feel the top 6, while the seeds aren't set, I think the top 6 are going to finish in the top 8.
I agree.
I think it's the 7 and 8 spot, or the 2 teams that could fill in there that are up for grabs.
I'll tell you what, Chambersburg lost by 2 to Harrisburg. I think
they played them tough. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that. You know, those mid-pen teams that make it to the playoffs are no joke, you know. So, but I feel like you can think the same thing about the Section 1 teams that are going to,
especially this year,
right? Yeah, Section 1 teams that make it are no joke either. So, it'll be interesting to see how it sorts out. You know, it shifted around a little bit since last week, and it'll shift around a little bit again this week. You know, we said, stay as high as you can here. Keep winning. For us, and I've talked to some people about that. We, as Wilson, you want Springford to win. Like the common opponents with the other team, if we're looking at 1 and 2, it doesn't really, league opponents don't really matter in that sense, because they will all go out in the wash, and Central Dauphin will go out in the wash because they were a common opponent as well.
So it comes down to
Mifflin to win the last 2 weeks.
Mifflin, Springford, Manheim Central.
Right. And I think all of them have a good shot. Well,
Mifflin needs to beat Exeter. This is a huge game for Wilson. This is a huge game for the Bulldogs.
And
Wilson
it's huge for Mifflin too, because I think Mifflin is, if they lose, it's big for Exeter too, though, because I think Exeter needs a win to get in.
Yep.
The loser might not make the playoffs.
Huge game. Yeah. Huge game for the Bulldogs when Exeter and Mifflin play this week.
Yeah.
But hopefully the Bulldogs can take care of business.
It's counterintuitive to Bulldog nature, but when your opponent's win percentage goes into your ranking, look at it from that way. So you're rooting for the betterment of Wilson's opponent win percentage.
Wilson currently has the highest opponent winning percentage of the teams in the top 9. Hempfield in 10th spot is the only one higher outside of McCaskey, which is down at 17th. So Wilson is just a hair in front of Central Dauphin in terms of opponent winning percentage. And then the other ones are team weighted power and opponent weighted power for wins and losses. And that goes into, it's weighted because of the teams you play. That's why you want to play 6A schools.
Right.
Because that's where the weight comes in.
Right.
Weight's very important.
Which we usually talk a lot about in our like off-season ones when we talk about scheduling a lot, and a lot of those preseason ones. This is why you try and load up on those 6A schools.
Right. So 8 weeks down, 9th week on deck. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
Big one. Handle your
really
business.
Important one. Handle your business. We know it's Sunday night. They've moved on. Cedar Crest is the focus now. So let's get the job done. Go out from the start and take care of things.
Yep. Congratulations to Coach Dahms again.
Absolutely.
152.
Unbelievable.
Congratulations to Anthony Coper, our player of the game. And thank you once again to all the alumni that came out to play in the flag football game, and all of my volunteers and helpers, and just everyone that made this weekend so great and a huge success. So anything else to add, Justin?
No.
All right. Then for Justin and the Wilson football program, we just want to thank you for everything over the last few days, and we look forward to this week coming up. And until next time, remember, go Bulldogs.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Bulldog Hour. Want more Wilson football? Follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud, or visit www.bulldoghour.com. The Bulldog Hour is a featured program on jmnjrradio.com.